So the Chiefs made a pretty sneaky and underrated signing today, adding to a position group that could definitely use the veteran experience, and he honestly could make a push for a starting spot on the roster. So I've got to talk about the reasons why that is, the Chiefs playing internationally and in more paywalled games, to the frustration of Chiefs fans, NFL executives not loving the Jaylon Moore signing, and more. But first, how about those? All right, first up, before I talk about the kind of underrated signing that the Chiefs made today, I like it a lot, I want to talk about something important here. If you are tired of the Chiefs playing overseas at weird times, on random days, and behind paywalls, too bad, because sadly, it doesn't look like that trend is ending anytime soon. Nate Taylor of The Athletic shared yesterday that according to multiple league sources, the Chiefs are the #1 franchise being considered by the NFL to play against the Chargers in Sao Paulo, Brazil. That's going to take place on Friday night, September 5th, so the day after the season opener, and will most likely be televised by a streaming service such as Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Netflix, or some other service altogether. On top of that, the Chiefs are apparently requesting that the NFL make it a Christmas tradition that they are a staple to play on December 25th. They've played on Christmas the last 2 years in a row, and it looks like per league sources, they will be playing on Christmas for a third consecutive year. At least it's trending in that direction. So the Chiefs will either be televised by Netflix or Amazon Prime on Christmas, another paywalled game just like Brazil. And before I talk about the paywalled viewing experience that many do not like, the good news here about the Chiefs most likely playing the Chargers week 1 in Brazil is this is actually a home game for the Chargers. I understand that they barely have any fans to begin with, even when they play in their home stadium, but this will probably be packed with Chiefs fans in Brazil cheering on Mahomes and Kelsey and all the guys out there in red and yellow. Then when the Chiefs and Chargers play again, it's going to be at Arrowhead. We know that Arrowhead is rocking, so 2 home games against a tough opponent in the Chargers sounds pretty good to me. The bad news about the Chiefs playing in Brazil is that last year, the field was awful. It was bad, okay? Let's just put it like that. The Eagles and Packers played in Sao Paulo, and players were slipping and sliding around as if they were on a literal ice rink. Apparently, the NFL has been working with stadium officials in Sao Paulo to help make sure field conditions are significantly better this year, and I do hope that's the case. I don't care if the Chiefs play in another country. Doesn't bother me a bit. Just don't let it be like the Mexico City situation in 2018. That's when the Chiefs and Rams were supposed to play there, but the field was so bad that it got moved to LA. I highly doubt this game is going to get moved, and it should definitely be better, but just don't ruin the on-field experience for the players just for more international exposure, and I'm good with KC playing whoever, wherever. It's also worth noting that Sao Paulo is only 2 hours ahead of Arrowhead time, so it won't put a ton of stress on players nor affect our viewing experience all that much, at least from a time perspective. I know, though, that a lot of people are not really happy about these paywalled games. Some are already spending hundreds of dollars on YouTube TV and NFL Sunday Ticket to watch Mahomes and company play, especially if they live out of the Kansas City market. But on top of that, many are now also needing Netflix, Amazon Prime, Peacock, and who knows what else this year to watch their favorite team play. I mentioned out-of-market fans specifically because if you live in the KC area like I do, you actually get access to all these games on local Kansas City television, but this royally hoses out-of-market fans. You can try to boycott the paywalled games in an attempt to stick it to the NFL if you'd like, but they're making so much money by doing this that the few who do boycott don't even put a dent in the NFL's wallets. In fact, they are only growing and views are going up every single year. The ultimate reality is this is not going away anytime soon, especially for the Kansas City Chiefs. They are one of the most successful teams in recent years, and whether you love them or you hate them, I mean, tons of people will be watching them play, hoping that they lose, wanting to see the most winningest org since 2018 take a big fat L, then of course we'll simply cry and blame the refs if they manage to win, but KC is a heavy draw regardless, so love it or hate it, the paywalled viewing experience, especially for out-of-market fans, is here to stay, and it seems like it's only going to get more expensive. I'd definitely be curious to read your thoughts, even though I think I know what they're going to be for most of you, in the comments down below. Next up, the Chiefs made a nice roster move today by adding back veteran safety Mike Edwards to a 1-year deal, and I like this signing quite a bit for a few reasons, and we'll get to them here in a moment. But first, if there was a feeling that I could recreate from my childhood, it would definitely be opening up some football cards that my dad got me and my brother for Christmas. It was always fun to see what we would end up getting, and with slab packs from arenaclub.com, I can relive that feeling anytime. I had a blast digitally opening several packs, even snagged and kept a card that featured Nick Bolton because why the heck not? You see, with slab packs, it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. And now, every time you rip a slab pack, Arena Club will make you an instant offer for your card based on its market value. That's right, no guessing, no waiting, none of that. Of course, I did this with a couple cards, even opting to move on from Deebo Samuel just like the 49ers did, but as you can see, accepting them on the spot made things simple, fast, and risk-free. It's safe to say that Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in the vault for safekeeping or trading and selling, or if you'd like, you can get them physically shipped straight to you as well. Then you can even submit your own cards for grading. Arena Club provides a detailed grading report with full transparency on how each grade is determined. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided and explanation of how your card was scored. So whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out. And right now, you can get 20% off your first slab packer card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/HBTC and using code HBTC. Alright, so safety Mike Edwards is back with the Kansas City Chiefs after playing 17 games with them during the 2023 NFL season. He started 5 of those games, seeing a lot of playing time after Brian Cook sadly went down with that pretty nasty ankle injury week 13. And in total, Edwards did snag an interception and made 2 very clutch fumble recoveries. One of those fumble recoveries, he took 97 yards to the house against the Chargers week 18, and the other, that was in Germany after Trent McDuffie stripped the ball out of Tyreek Hill's tiny little hands. Mike Edwards actually scooped it up and lateraled the ball back to safety Brian Cook, who housed it. That was one of the most electric plays I've seen in recent years, and will never forget it as long as I live. So, Mike Edwards is a guy who knows where to be and has been a bit of a ball hawk in recent years. Let's get into it. He was initially a 3rd-round pick by the Bucs in the 2019 NFL Draft, playing 4 years with them, but he racked up 7 interceptions in his 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year, 3 of them being pick sixes before he signed that 1-year deal with KC in 2023. I actually wouldn't have minded his return last year for the 2024 season, but they already had Justin Reed on the roster. They had Brian Cook as well, and they drafted Jaden Hicks in the 4th round, so it wasn't a huge need there. Well, that's when Mike Edwards opted to sign with the Buffalo Bills, but he only played 7 snaps. Not 7 games, 7 snaps in 2 games with Buffalo, and so he requested a trade. They didn't find a trade partner, and they ended up releasing him. Well, that's when he was claimed off of waivers by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the team that originally drafted him, and he had a pretty good end of the year with them. He at least saw a lot more playing time, and it wasn't a huge sample size, but if you look at his grades here, he graded out pretty well at the end of the 2024 season. Well, the 28-year-old is now back with the Chiefs, and I like that for a few different reasons. He's not too far removed from playing a full season in Spags' complex system, so it won't take too much for him to get brought back up to speed. Then, with Justin Reed gone, the safety room overall, at least for the starters, are pretty young. Brian Cook's 25, Chamari Connor's 24, and Jaden Hicks is still only 22 at this point in time. Well, the addition of Mike Edwards gives you a guy that can definitely rotate in and play, plus he's a veteran with a ton of experience. It's also worth mentioning that he could challenge Brian Cook or Chamari Connor for a starting spot if push came to shove. I'm not saying he will, but if there's any struggles there in the secondary, in the safety room, Mike Edwards is a solid enough player, and honestly, that's a pretty good problem to have here. If you look at this graphic, this was the 10 original defensive backs that made the 53-man roster to start the season last year. Well, let's swap out Justin Reed's name for Mike Edwards and Nick Jones for Christian Fulton, and this could very well be how things are shaping up so far, at least prior to the draft. They could add a defensive back or 2 in the draft for sure. Then, of course, they also have Deion Bush on the roster right now, but he was primarily a special teams guy and spent most of last season on KC's practice squad. So yeah, I feel even better now about the safety room that, to be fair, still has some what if to it after the departure of Justin Reed. He was a huge piece of the defense, a big player of the secondary, so those are some big shoes to fill back there. It seems like they are very high, talking about the Chiefs coaching staff, on Jaden Hicks as he enters year 2. He was one of the best safeties of the 2024 draft class and had some definite standout moments his rookie year in the small role that he did play. I will say, though, the signing of cornerback Christian Fulton was one of the best moves KC made this offseason. It adds to the talent in the cornerback room, even the depth a little bit as well, and it's also going to allow Trent McDuffie to kick inside to the slot as needed, providing a huge boost in coverage. This should also at times put less pressure on the safety room, so they may be able to absorb the loss of Justin Reed a bit easier because of this. Either way, the return of Mike Edwards was a pretty solid one because if injuries hit the safety room, he can definitely step up as needed and rotate in whenever his number gets called upon, and ultimately, his veteran experience only makes that room better. And then, before I get to a bit of a Trey Smith update and what some execs thought about KC signing a particular player that they hope is going to be a big piece of their offense this year, the closer we get to the NFL draft, the closer currently rostered players are to being able to participate in the offseason workout programs. There are some dates that were shared today. The first day of this can start on April 21st, but then OTA offseason workouts, 3 groups of them, is May 27th through the 29th, June 2nd through June 4th, and June 10th through the 13th, with mandatory minicamp being June 17th through the 19th. And to be clear, a lot of these beginning off-season workouts, they're voluntary. So you're not going to always see every player there, but you are seeing a lot of them get ready for the mandatory stuff that's going to happen later on. Typically, Mahomes and the majority of the pass catchers on the roster are going to be working out and training together in Texas. That's what we've seen the last couple of years, and that's also why we are seeing a bunch of players share footage of themselves getting ready for all this that's coming up over the next few months. I mean, they kind of have to stay in shape regardless, but the point is, some of these guys training are more exciting to me than others, with the first being Rashee Rice. He sadly tore his LCL during the Week 4 matchup against the Chargers when Mahomes got picked off, ironically, by Christian Fulton, who's now a Chief, and we know that whole story. Mahomes accidentally injured Rice for the entire season, but it looks like Rice is back like he never left, sharing training video after training video after training video. I mentioned that because Andy Reid basically confirmed this week what appeared to be true through Rice's training, and that is, not only should Rice be more than ready to go to start the NFL season, but he's actually on track to be ready for training camp at the end of July. That is great news and confirms he should indeed be back to 100% himself this season. Fingers crossed. Now, he will most likely be suspended at some point in time this year, but we all knew that was bound to happen. Another player recently seen training hard and looking great is defensive end Charles Omenihu. He will be another year removed from his ACL tear, and while his health was never in doubt as far as being able to play, he didn't quite look himself upon his return late last year. This season, though, he's going to be more than ready and will be playing with a big ol' chip on his shoulder as he's back on a 1-year prove-it deal, aiming to cash in next offseason on a multi-year deal from somebody. I know we need to see how the draft pans out, but if they can snag just a couple of solid contributors, defensive tackle, maybe a defensive end, offensive lineman if the right guy falls to them, then of course a running back and wide receiver, please and thank you. This team is going to be in great shape for 2025, and I'm very excited about that at this point in time. This roster isn't without its question marks, though, one of them being the status of Trey Smith getting a long-term deal done, but also how Jaylon Moore, who's only started 12 NFL games in his career, will pan out as the starting left tackle for the Chiefs this season. Regarding Trey Smith, he spoke on First Things First with Nick Wright yesterday, and when asked for an update on the franchise tag and a long-term deal, like, is one gonna happen or not, Trey replied, quote, "I just leave it all in my agent's hands. At the end of the day, we just keep working at it. I'm just excited. I know I'm coming back, and that's gonna be the best part about it, getting back out there on the field and hopefully getting back to another Super Bowl." Well, I think it's safe to say that Trey wants to stay around for years to come, and at least, well, for sure through the 2025 season, which is great. The question is, does a long-term deal actually get done or not? Well, there's no immediate rush to find out that answer because the Chiefs and Trey Smith have until mid-July to actually get something done. They may very well wait until after the draft and then ramp things back up to try and get a contract hammered out. And on the subject of the O-line, I found this interesting. Mike Sando of The Athletic put out an article where he talked with NFL execs about their thoughts on moves made in free agency, specifically around the AFC. Well, for the Chiefs, one exec did not love the move KC made to sign Jaylon Moore to that 2-year, $30 million deal, considering, quote, he's been protected in a system that is not drop back heavy. Of course, the other reservation is he's never really been a long-term starter, and I get that concern, but shoot, if I had to choose between Cam Robinson's 1-year, $12 million deal up to $14.5 max, Dan Moore's 4-year, $82 million deal worth $50 million guaranteed, or Jaylon Moore's 2-year, $30 million deal based on age, upside, and overall potential talent, I think the Chiefs made the right decision here. Of course, they also tried to get Ravens left tackle Ronnie Stanley before getting Moore, and after that didn't work out, Moore was definitely the next best move. But what do you guys think? On a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous does Jaylon Moore make you at left tackle, combined with the fact that Joe Thuney is no longer there? He raises the floor of the left tackle spot for sure compared to anybody who played there last year, but there's no way Kingsley or whoever the left guard ends up being is going to play at as high of a level as Joe Thuney did, because obviously Joe Thuney is one of the best in the business. Let me know your thoughts either way on that in the comments down below, and until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?